My friends, we are going to grow and get better together. This is not about me. This is about us. Welcome to Win Today with Johnny Martin. Welcome back, friends. Welcome back to another episode of Win Today with your boy, Johnny Martin. So happy to be back with everybody, as usual, joined by my good friends in studio, Dylan Pilon from Cloud9 Marketing Group. What's up, D?
How we doing?
Life is good, man. Thanks for being here, as always.
No choice. It's my office.
That's true. We are using your space, but I appreciate you nonetheless.
It's a great point.
No, it was a fair point. It wasn't a great point. It was a fair point. Also joined by my, in quotes,
Dear friend.
good friend,
Lifelong friend.
Donnie Kavanaugh from Seven Roads Media. Hello, Donnie.
Hi, John. How are you?
Life is good, man. Thanks again for being here. I'm really, really excited to discuss the topic for today. It's something that I think, well, certainly from my perspective, I've spent a long time thinking about, but at my age now, it's beginning to make a lot more sense. And so the title of the episode is Practice Does Not Make Perfect. But I think when we get into the episode, you're going to see in great detail, I hope, what that really means. But the short version is, and I got to tell you guys this, that this research and the people I've talked to and the stuff that I've been learning about this leads me to believe, even with my IQ, as low as it is,
Don't be so hard on yourself.
that no, it's honest. It's not hard. It's an honest assessment.
Have you ever been tested?
Yes, it's none of your business. I'm trying to be a damn genius. I'm trying to become a genius, and I believe that it's possible. I'm serious.
Everybody's good at something.
That's exactly the point. That is exactly the point. And for a long time, not just for me, but a lot of people listening, I think we get pigeonholed and handcuffed into doing what we think we're supposed to do. Public school, our family upbringing, whatever situations we're exposed to, maybe what our parents do, what our older siblings do, what uncles, aunts, cousins, relatives that we look up to, whatever they do in terms of career, life, passion, we are obviously influenced by those choices, by those paths. And so what happens is we grow up in a society and a culture where we are never encouraged to try all kinds of different stuff and fail. We're never encouraged to try all kinds of different avenues for our own personal success and our abilities to significantly impact others because we feel like we have to do one particular thing. And so this notion of growth mindset, and don't overthink that term, folks. It is truly that, how we can build our aptitude specific to areas that we are passionate about and love by changing the way we think and learn is essentially what it is. When we talk about growth mindset, there's so much research out there behind it. We'll tag this person in our show notes, but it's a great person to look into if you want to truly get a better grasp on how to keep growing mentally, how to continue to sharpen those skills from an intelligence perspective in whatever area you're passionate or interested in. And the woman's name is Carol Dweck, D-W-E-C-K. She started pioneering this stuff at Stanford University. She's written a book called Mindset, The New Psychology of Success. But for this episode, I don't want to get hung up in the psychological jargon that would confuse even a psychologist. The short version is, because of all the limitations that we've placed on ourselves without even realizing it, whether it's in school, in relationships, in our work, in our quest for greatness, whatever it is, we fail to realize and believe that our intelligence can increase. Because we spend the majority of our time focusing on what we cannot do and why we cannot do it, that we don't tap into all of the things that we can do and can do more effectively. Okay, so a great way to solidify this, to wrap your heads around this, is that when we look at intelligence, there are basically two schools of thought when you look at intelligence, guys. And for those of you folks that are listening, there's fixed intelligence, meaning it's just that. It was predetermined at birth. And that's usually determined by your IQ. This is the notion that you are born with the capacity to learn certain things and not be able to learn other things, which I personally believe is garbage. It's absolute garbage. In my work with kids over the last 20 years, I cannot tell you how many times I've sat in meetings and sat with professionals and sat with clinicians and sat with parents where all you hear is about what a student cannot do. And that student every single day has gone out and shattered those beliefs and thoughts about what that kid could or could not do. Because that kid, based on the resources he or she had, and based on their mindset and their framework, decided to focus much, much more on their strengths and gifts and what they could do and how they did learn best, and focused a lot less on what they were always told they could not do because of the way the system of education was set up for them. So that's the fixed mindset. The other one is the growth mindset, which we're going to talk about a little bit today. And that's just it. That intelligence, our ability to learn things, can absolutely be developed. It can absolutely be developed. What I love most about this whole notion around growth mindset is that it flies in the face of the self-esteem movement that arguably destroyed a whole generation of kids who are now adults into thinking no matter what they did, no matter how hard they worked, it was all okay. Everybody gets a trophy. Everybody gets a sticker on their paper. Teachers shouldn't correct papers in red ink anymore because it disturbs the psyche of a child. This growth mindset stuff flies in the face of the self-esteem movement. And that's probably one of the reasons that I was so attracted to it. Because the self-esteem movement didn't do anything for kids other than reinforce illogical beliefs about what they were capable of. Because the whole time they grew up, no matter what they did, how hard they worked, how well they performed, they were told they were great. And so kids weren't forced to sit in the garbage for a while and say, well, no, I wasn't great. Compared to who? We just got beat 50-0, but we're still great because we tried. Well, you tried hard compared to who? Growth mindset takes a look at the individual and not the system. And that's why I wanted to talk about it today, because as you're listening, I want you to think about your own growth mindset. Your own restrictions that you've placed on yourself from the time maybe you were a very young kid, they were placed upon you by other people, or the restrictions you placed upon yourself as an adult because of what you've always been told and led to believe that you could not do. Or the opposite of that. You're a kid who grew up during the whole self-esteem generation where no matter what you did, it was awesome. And you've gotten punched in the face by reality and you realize, wow, I'm not as awesome as everybody told me I was from the time I could walk till the time I graduated high school. I've entered this thing called real life, and there are no handouts. There are no free passes. There's no sticker on your paycheck for a job well done if you don't do a job well done. What this growth mindset really looks at is not to close intelligence gaps. It looks to close those gaps, not hide those gaps. We get away from just praising effort without improving intelligence and performance. Think about that. I'm not at all saying we shouldn't praise effort, but we should be honest in our praise of effort. I have 2 kids. One is 10, one is 8. And I tell them already at their age, I will not validate BS. Because their version of what hard work is and what real hard work is are 2 totally different things. And I've had so many people tell me, and you may not agree with this, I've had so many people tell me, well, they're still trying to figure it out. They're only 10 and 8. Well, I agree that they are still trying to figure it out, but it's my responsibility to teach them that what your idea of hard work is and what real hard work is are 2 very different things. And I can't stand the notion that we're not supposed to have those real tough conversations with young people because they're fragile. It may hurt their feelings. We've got to get away from that. Facts and feelings are not the same thing. They're just not. Because we're all human beings, I can validate your feelings without agreeing with the information that you've presented. Your feelings are not factual information. Are we supposed to discount feelings and human emotion? Of course not. Of course not. But we're also not supposed to just validate everybody's feelings because they feel that way. We've destroyed a whole generation of people by doing that. So no longer are we supposed to say, well, it's okay because you tried really hard. The kid that's failing his math class, the entry-level worker, the person who's trying to get their feet off the ground and get something started beautiful with their life, they don't want to hear that garbage. They don't want to hear you tried really hard while they get another E in math class. They don't want to hear you tried really hard when they've stayed in the same entry-level job for the last 5 years because they've convinced themselves that they can't learn anymore. And so whether one person hears this, 100 or 1,000,000, please know that you are only as restricted as you allow yourself to be. Can you learn maybe the same way that you've always learned? Maybe not. Will you have to find a way to learn differently? Yes. That's where the challenge comes in, but that is not at all reflected in IQ. Whether you got A's in school, whether you got a college degree, that has everything to do with your willingness to seek out the people, the resources that can help you tap into how you learn to learn best. That's growth mindset. Because practice doesn't make perfect. A lot of you that are listening right now, probably like me, you went to school and you were taught how to learn the same way in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, all the way through school. We went into school, we sat in rows, we raised our hand when we had a question. When we were called on, we had to answer. And we've created a culture of people that are afraid to fail. Let me give you an example. Think about in your own lives that first time you were ever working on a problem in class and you were asked to go up to the board in front of the entire class to do that problem. And you got that problem wrong because maybe you weren't paying attention, maybe you didn't care, or maybe you just didn't know how to do the math problem. You didn't know how to learn it that way. But when you got that problem wrong in front of the entire class, if you grew up in my generation, you never wanted to volunteer to go up to the board again because you didn't have any faith in your ability to do the problem well. If you grew up in the self-esteem generation, you didn't learn anything new, but when you got the problem wrong, you weren't embarrassed because the teacher hugged you or gave you a sticker and said, "Good try." Either way, we weren't put in a position to learn how to learn things differently. And so as that progresses through every grade of our school, we get to a position in our lives where we feel like I only have the capacity to learn certain things. I'm afraid to step outside my box and learn new things because what I believe about my potential, my learning, is that I'm restricted. I can only learn so much. I struggled through high school. That means I can't go to college. I failed out of college. That means I can't get a good paying job unless I'm willing to work 100 hours a week. And so we have a generation of people, we have countless generations of people who are stuck because they believe the way they were taught to practice is the only way to practice. Practice does not make perfect, folks. Practice makes permanent. If I practice something 1,000 times and I practice it incorrectly, I'm going to do it incorrectly when I'm tested on that, whether it's in school, relationships, life, work. This example runs in every aspect of our lives. But if I practice something correctly or differently 10 times, but I do it the right way, I have just learned something new. That's growth mindset. This approach does not at all focus or entertain why people cannot learn and grow. It's just the opposite. It focuses on how we can I have no interest in discussing with my students, with my parents, when I speak around the country. I don't want to discuss why you can't. Because we have countless examples in our lives of people that have overcome insurmountable odds and adversity by tapping into resources that are different than they've tapped into before. You've had an amputation, you've lost both your legs. You're never going to be able to learn to walk again. And these people go out and run marathons. You have a learning exceptionality that will prevent you from doing well in school. You are special. You're in different classes. Well, why do some of these people go on to be some of the most significant people in the history of our world? They knew about growth mindset before growth mindset was even popular. You can transplant or change that phrase to call it anything you want. The point that I'm trying to get across in this podcast today and in this discussion today is that it's absolute garbage that you are only capable or destined from an intellectual perspective to do certain things. I don't believe that. The reality of the situation is we all have a little bit of both in us. We have some of those fixed mindset characteristics. If I have 100 IQ, it's not going to become a 120. But I can maximize that 100 IQ to learn more effectively than the person who has the 120 that might not have this mindset. That's growth mindset. So how do we work on developing this growth mindset? How do we work on it? I think there are a lot of different ways. And one of the things that I want to do a better job of in these podcasts is I want to highlight some of these ways that we can work on and develop this notion of either growth mindset or any of the topics that we're discussing in our podcasts. We don't pay attention. We don't pay close enough attention to how we handle challenge, criticism, and defeat. We don't. We need to do a better job. If we really want to grow, how do I handle challenge? How do I handle criticism? How do I handle defeat? If you want to work to shift your growth mindset, do you embrace challenge? Most of us don't. Most of us hate challenge and change. In some way, today, tomorrow, this week, find one challenge that you've put off, ignored, dismissed. And it might seem insignificant to you, but it's going to work to help shift your mindset. Take that challenge or change and pay close attention to how you handle it. Nobody likes to be criticized. We call it constructive criticism. Another word that I don't love, because the person with the growth mindset, all criticism should serve to help you grow. No one likes to be told they're not good at stuff. No one likes to be told they're not the best athlete on the field. They're not the strongest guy in the weight room. They're not the smartest person in their class. They're not the best manager at their job. But this notion that we have to constructively criticize someone, if you're someone who truly wants to grow and get better, it shouldn't be about who said it to you or how it was said. It should be about what was said. Your job is to dissect the meat from that criticism and use it to fuel you. Use it to say, you know what? That pissed me off, but I'm going to use that to fuel me because it was right. Because when I honestly look at the mirror and there's no one else around and I have a chance to really look at what that person said to me, were they right? We complicate very simple things. So try to eliminate the word constructive criticism. Well, I know they were trying to be nice, but, or they could have been nicer when they said that. Who cares? Who cares how it was said? Who cares who said it? What matters is, was it true? Was it accurate? I keep some of the greatest friends in my life. One in particular, The reason that I love him so much and respect him so much is he sugarcoats nothing. If I do something that he thinks sucks, he'll tell me that sucked, and you know it sucked. I can remove the emotion from it because I know he already loves me. So let's get past this. Everybody's got to be. I'm all for kindness. I'm a really kind person. I care very much about people and the human condition. But we've got to separate the notion that, well, if they're not being kind, it means they don't care. Be able to accept criticism. And you've got to be afraid to fail. Unafraid to fail, excuse me. You've got to be unafraid to fail. Every single thing that we have tried to do through this podcast, every single thing has been new for me. It's been new. It's been organic. It's been brand spanking new. I've never been exposed to any of it before. I fail every single time I try to put one of these together. I'm learning to embrace that failure. But the reason that we grow up in a society where people are afraid to fail is because society highlights success and magnifies failure. It starts when we're kids. So it's not always the difficulty of the task that scares us. From the time we were little kids, it's the fear that we're going to be judged, that we're going to be made fun of, that we're going to be called stupid. So we're afraid to take risks. And most people avoid situations like this. If you don't take away anything else from this discussion today, know this, that mistakes and failure are the most powerful tools for your own growth. It bothers me to share it, and the reason it bothers me from a personal perspective is because it took me almost 40 years to figure it out. And it doesn't have to take 40 years to figure it out. How can we start doing a better job of highlighting mistakes and failure? We have to start bringing them up. We have to start discussing them intentionally. If your kids make a mistake, highlight it. That doesn't mean scream at them and tell them they're worthless human beings. Highlight the mistake. And then here's how we develop growth mindset in our kids. And here's how we develop growth mindset in ourselves. When we highlight the mistake, we talk about how we cannot make the same one again. And we don't just brush it off. We don't just say, well, I won't do that again. That's not learning. That's not growth mindset. You've made a mistake. Let's process how you will not make the same mistake again. What is your plan to learn, to do things differently, to attack the situation that will come up again in a different way? That's growth mindset. Not, well, I just can't do that ever again because I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not strong enough. Garbage. All hot garbage. That's why 99% of the people in this world stay stuck. So you have to decide if you're okay with that. I'm personally not okay with it. It's the whole reason that I've chosen this as one of my platforms to discuss my journey and hopefully help some folks along the way. So that's one way. Don't be afraid to highlight mistakes in your home, in your work, with your kids, with your best friends, with your husband, with your wife, with your boyfriend, with your girlfriend. Highlight the mistakes. Grow and get better together. A couple other things. How do you take charge of your learning now in your life? Think about it. How do you prepare for your week? Simple things. How do you prepare for your day? How do you prepare for your next hour? Do you self-evaluate? Every single day when you finish your day, you should take a few minutes to self-check. Some people write it down. Some people do it in their audio notes on their phone. Some people just think about it. They reflect. But what do you do? My guess is for most of you, the answer is nothing. For me, the answer was nothing for almost 40 years of my life. I did nothing. I just accepted that another day passed. I was tired and I wanted to close my eyes and go to bed. And when I woke up the next day, this will probably shock you. It usually went the exact same way as the day before. There was no growth. There was no change. There was no development because I wasn't working on it. Every day is a chance to get better and grow. But the way we do that is by looking at what went well, where we prepared, Why or why not? And what can I do a better job of tomorrow? We're either growing or we're getting worse. There is no in between. A few things to kind of help you guys get started. Again, I would definitely reference Mindset, the New Psychology of Success. We'll tag it in the show notes. That's from Dweck. And I want to leave you with just a couple things to think about. And you can tell how passionate I am about this topic, I think, by my delivery. But I'm going to tell you guys, we're selling ourselves so very short. No more should we look at challenges and obstacles as challenges and obstacles. We got to look at them as opportunities. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to grow. Try to replace the word failing with the word learning. I didn't fail. I just learned to do it differently. What a great gift to give, not just yourself, but your kids, your family, your friends' kids you know. We've got to get this notion of failing out of our mentality. We're learning differently. And there's nothing wrong with failing and learning differently. And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, would you please stop seeking approval from other people? The surest way not to move a damn inch is to worry about what other people are thinking. Sometimes you got to take the leap. Just jump, folks. Take the damn leap. Because if you get up tomorrow and do the same thing you did today and you're worried about what everybody else is saying, doing, or thinking about you, you're wasting that time, attention, and energy on your own growth. Your approval needs to come from you first and foremost, and it needs to be rock solid, undeniable, unshakable. I am 1,000% committed to doing this, and I don't give a damn what anybody else thinks. I will own my successes. I will own my failures and my new opportunities to learn differently, but I don't need your permission because it's my ride. It's your ride. And you only get to do it once. Be good to those you love. Let them know you love them. And go out and earn the day. Win today with Johnny Martin. We'll see you soon. Thank you to Seven Roads Media and Cloud9 Marketing Group for co-producing the show. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe on whatever platform you're on. Without you, I cannot continue to do what I love. You can follow me personally on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at RealJohnCMartin. I'd love to hear from you, so please reach out with comments and questions after each episode. Your comments push me to get better every day. As always, thank you for your continued support, and don't forget, win today.